Hey guys, Davo here. Time to film part 3 of my story for Recovery Now. It's been a few big days. Parts 1 and 2 we've launched on the Recovery Now Facebook page. Part 1 being a bit of a story about the backstory, or the beginning of the backstory about myself, where I grew up, and the family home, my family, the unreal upbringing that I had in Cowra, Central West New South Wales. Part 2 is a little bit more about going away to school, after school, spending time at Eastern Suburbs Rugby Union Club in Sydney, socialising in the Sydney Eastern Suburbs, coaching rugby, playing rugby, being involved in sport, heavy drinking, heavy party, heavy socialising, struggling with my sexuality, battling with the concept of my own sexual abuse from a young age from someone outside of my family, leading up to now the point where we talk about part 3 to this story, leading up to having worked in hospitality for 10 or so years, coming home to Cowra for a 2-year lease to run a nice bistro pub here in town, third generation business owner in Cowra, the sort of romance of doing that, and how things started to really unravel for me in the second year of that lease. Things certainly were going really well in year 1. I thought coaching was the club, Cowra Rugby Union Club's 50th year. My father was patron of the club. He's an ex-president, first grade coach, first grade player, and second grade premiership winner, probably third grade player as well. I was announced as coach of that side, the first grade side for the club's 50th year, which was a huge, it was a very proud moment for myself and my family. Taking over the pub, being licensee of a pub in a small country town, you really become a public figure within the town, and I was certainly excited about the concept of that. My grandfather, Ab Oliver, a former mayor of Cowra. My father, 30 plus years of a business owner at that local Toyota car dealer in town. My uncle, also a prominent businessman in town as well. It was a very exciting time for myself to be going into that sort of environment. And it was a great time. The pub was a really lovely pub. It is still a lovely pub. It's a great pub to work in. Our family friends who took it from a receivership and built it up to be the family pub in Cowra did an exceptional job. It's a lovely hotel, and things were looking okay. At the end, as you probably heard in part 2, at the end of the first year of coaching in that summer season, towards the end of year 1 of the lease, halfway through the first year of the lease, but the end of the rugby season, I decided I'd tell mum and dad and my family that I was gay. And that went really well. It was. There's no perfect way for those things to unfold. It was a bit awkward. I actually did a conference call to my family all in one go, and sort of told a few white lies about why I needed to speak to them, and I had to put one sister on hold, and then dial the other sister and put her on hold, and I had to work out how to conference call everyone, and then I just told them all at once. Let it sit with them, and mum and dad were up at home, and I was down at the pub, and obviously had a couple of beers and a bit of Dutch courage, and probably mixed in with a couple of other substances, unfortunately, just to build up the courage to get things done. And mum and dad came down, and we had a lovely hour or so talking about a huge part of my life that had unfolded, and I'd now really taken ownership of. I'm a little bit ashamed about the fact, you probably just heard there talk, I was intoxicated and under the influence of something, and grog and whatever. I'm not going to apologise for that. That's just the way things are, unfortunately, with these sorts of things. I'm sure all of us have had times in our lives, and I'm going to break a few rules here. So if there's any therapists from my facility that I went to, and I know I'm not talking in the eye, so don't yell down the camera at me. Just for this particular video, and as this concept develops, we're going to have some guidelines for how you share Recovery Now. and one of the big ones of those things, I really wanted to make sure that this never becomes a advice giving line. We're not about that. We're just about sharing stories. But I'm going to break all the rules in this video, and it's my thing, so suck it up. I should have started by saying this one's got a language warning as well. I'll put it up as text. There are going to be a few F-bombs, unfortunately. But so if you're listening to this in the car or you've got kids around, please whack some earphones on, or watch it at another appropriate time, because I'm not a fan of swearing in front of children and that sort of thing. So yeah, look, we've all had tough times. We've all had to have a couple of beers or a glass of wine before we make a phone call, whatever. And telling my parents I was gay was certainly something that was a big moment in my life, and I'm not ashamed by the fact that I needed a little bit of Dutch courage to get that across the line. Mum and Dad were fantastic with that bit of news. I got to share with them, a lot of information about what was going on in my life and that sort of thing. But anyway, we moved on. Unfortunately, though, prior to that, and as you heard, I had decided to up the ante a bit, I suppose, and try what I believe to be, I suppose, another substance out there in recreation drug world. But for some reason I hadn't seen all of the death and disability and dastardly information about methamphetamine and ice, and I do mean that. Decided to, when I had an opportunity, to try ice. It's the most stupid fucking thing I've ever done in my life. Anyway, it's very hospitality friendly, for want of a better term. I'm not here to dob in the industry, but we've got a lot to answer for when it comes to substance abuse, our industry. And if there's anyone out there in the hospitality game that disagrees with that, you're fucking blind. It's a real problem. But I'm not here to really harp on the hospitality industry, but this is the world we live in. Look, I tried ice. I enjoyed it. It certainly, in the early stages, was a substance that I found made life a little bit easier at the pub. I was running the thing by myself. From a practical perspective, my father was certainly heavily involved with a lot of the back of house running of the pub, and some helping out cleaning the place and making it presentable. But being single and being gay, and a lot of these small country pubs, as most of you would know, are usually run by a couple, a married couple or whatever. And there's a very good reason behind that, because it really is a two-person job. It's fucking tough. I was sort of found myself thinking, like a lot of ice users do, that they can rule the world. I could do lunch, I could do dinner, reset the joint, clean up, stay awake all night, fuck around and socialise and whatever. And there's our and I'm not going to mention names of people that I haven't already cleared with them, but our housekeeper, she'd come in and find me awake, doing things when she used to start quite early in the mornings, and I'm sure that was incredibly confronting for her. But for me, and the way the drug makes you think, it's like, well, I'm just being productive, which is just completely ridiculous. But anyway, this is what the drug does. They talk about Patrick Carnes, the book that I'm working my way through, Facing Addiction. They talk about drug being the only disease that tells you that you don't have it, and that's certainly my experience with methamphetamine use and drug addiction. You get sick, you get syphilis, you get the flu, any sort of virus, your body automatically tells you that you're sick, and all of your mechanisms kick into place. Your nose runs, you get sick, you become nauseous, and you know you're sick, and you do something about it. Addiction, you don't. The more you use the drug, the more you tell yourself you don't have a problem, and the more you use the drug, and the more you tell yourself you don't have a fucking problem. Anyway, that was certainly my experience as well. So year 2 is a complete and utter blur for me. my world started to come in around me. You couldn't have a complete contrast of a time frame than coming home and the romance that I just talked you through of taking over that pub and what I was doing, to you know, completely turning my back on the rugby club, completely changing social circles to obviously include those that were also using drugs. I didn't completely shut myself out, but I became very close. I became hugely self-conscious about the fact that I'd come out of the closet in a small country town, and was the drug didn't help at all with the nervousness and the paranoia that comes with the use of methamphetamine. My self-consciousness, my shamefulness about being gay, especially being involved in such a heterosexual, male-dominated situation with rugby union and sport and pubs, and being a publican and an Australian male, you can imagine the perfect storm of mental illness I was going through, and it just became a tornado of continued use and abuse of the drug, and the only way out was to keep going further. You know, you just keep using more. It's the same story for everyone I've heard, particularly with this drug. There is, I've know some mates that smoke pot and like playing a bit of PlayStation, and you know, they're fairly well functioning in society, and I'm sure it's doing some damage to their body.